We're going to speculate on T2 Biosystems. I'm not a financial advisor or professional. This isn't financial advice. I am long the stock. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell. I'm not a pumper. I am a medical professional, and this is not medical advice. So after all of those disclosures, we can get into some of the technicals. I like to start out with at least the price, and we have a pretty good day of green price action right now. It is $4.10 post reverse split, and we're kind of I don't know, maybe flagging, like a bull flag, one might call it. I like to call it a consolidating wedge with the context of an intraday uptrend. So we can call that a little bit of a flag formation. Whether it breaks up to the upside or downside is yet to be determined. But we are kind of coming into an interesting point on the chart where I do see some support that was formed prior to that breakout to the 433 range over here at $4.10. So we'll see if we get a little bit of a bounce right here, and maybe come into the 403 range potentially and retest that support before going and retesting that 433 high. So we'll see what goes on. How's it going, C-Mans? How's it going, LaFlare? Anyone is welcome to speak and get up here. Let's see here. There was some fun Twitter or X drama over the last few days. I guess there's like this account that I don't actively follow them, but they like post up in my they come into my algorithm, and it was this Constant Raise Dan account. Sorry if that music was really loud, by the way. And this alleged account, was anonymous, but posted that he had like a wife and 4 kids, and was pretending to be this family man, and I guess got kind of like revealed that he was some other, potentially, I don't know, allegedly some other guy who's kind of a shyster in the community of real estate. And it's just really interesting seeing like the response that had, and the shock wave that it kind of sent throughout the real estate Twitter community. And I'm talking like, like Nick Hubler. I don't know if anyone, I might be out on an island here. Nobody has an idea what I'm talking about, but it's just kind of interesting to see it play out. And it really is a testament that you have to be careful who you're following, even if they sound really smart. Unless they're posting like their name and stuff. I don't know. It's very easy to hide behind an anonymous account, in my opinion. And also, and I won't spend too much time on this, but just it's funny seeing, his whole, I guess, point was that he wasn't a bad guy. This Constant Raise Dan guy wasn't a bad guy. He's just using Twitter as a social media, and he's a media account, and he's there to sell, and just like everybody else. And he says that everyone else is just hypocrites because they're there to sell, but they just won't say it. And I love people that really kind of, I guess I do kind of align myself in the contrarian viewpoint on most things. I don't know. Maybe that's like a problem within myself that I need to look into more. But I think it's interesting, though, because groupthink is a problem. And it's so prevalent on social media because it's so easy to get behind these accounts that kind of like rah-rah each other and support each other. And And this guy's saying like, yeah, I'm anonymous and maybe I like fooled people. Now, obviously, I think that's wrong. He doesn't. That might be a problem of his. Who knows? But I guess I like the point that if you look at all these other accounts on these like real estate, Twitter accounts, they have in their bio like how much money they've raised or how many deals they've closed in like the hundreds of millions and all these things, and it's like that's a flex. That's nothing more than a flex, and it, yes, I put in my bio that I've treated sepsis for 3 years in a level 1 trauma ER. Maybe that some might call that a flex or something like that. I do that for transparency and for validity and to kind of like the things that I'm saying, and maybe they're doing it for that same purpose. But in my opinion, I'm like, no, I actually think that's more of like a salesy thing to do. So I don't know. Just very interesting things on Twitter on this little app or on X. It really is an interesting space, kind of like I don't know, a community of people online. But we can move on from that. I've been seeing a lot of DMs, or not a lot of DMs, I should say, just a couple of DMs about dilution. I've seen a lot of comments about dilution, and I kind of wanted to address that openly so that I think we're all on the same page here. And I would love for anyone to come up here and tell me if I'm wrong or, add to the discussion if they want to. But from just page 2 of this 10Q that was filed last Wednesday, I believe, a week ago now. Let me find it. It says, weighted average number of common shares used in computing net loss per share, basic and diluted. And then it gives this 4,477,321 number, which, in my opinion, I took that to be the new outstanding share size. Because it says the weighted average number of common shares used in computing the net loss per share. So, like this EPS, this earnings per share, this is the amount of like shares that they used in computing that net loss per share. So maybe that's different than the outstanding. I don't know. I'm interpreting that as the outstanding. So if that's true, right, I mean, we could go back to the last 10Q. I don't know, out of the interest of like a long, awkward pause while I look that up. I mean, I can try and do that in the background and talk, but I believe the previous, I mean, let's just approximate here. I believe the previous outstanding share size was around 3.5 million, post reverse split adjusted. So if that's correct, then this 4.47, million number is approximately 1 million shares added to the outstanding share size that, probably came from an ATM, or not an ATM, probably came from the Canaccord Genuity ATM. So if that's the case, then, we added, let's see here, 1 million roughly, divided by 3.5 million is 28.5% to the outstanding share size. And this is really funny because if you've been like tracking these spaces pretty closely, then you would know that we kind of speculated that this was going to happen, that they were going to add potentially another million shares, because and this is where I got that. And not I, but I believe it was me and Cash that were talking, or maybe somebody else. But I speculated that the company wanted to or needed to raise another 5 million. And so in order to do that, the share price was around $5 at that point. So I figured they would dilute maybe another million shares. which was in the realm of 25 to 30% of the outstanding share size. I could be wrong. I could be dreaming that up. I need to go back, and there's 60 plus hours of these space calls, so it'd be very hard for me to track that down. But it's really outside the point that right now it looks bad, right? That we've added, or not we, they've added 30% to the outstanding share size. That means that you and I, or whoever is holding the shares long, have been diluted 30% essentially, or nearly 30%. That's pretty rough, right? Especially in the context of a 90% drop over a 3-month period. So that's why, I get a lot of heat on this company and a lot of hate, honestly, is because I do look like a fool sitting up here talking. What's up, Scott? I add you up here. How's it going, my man?
Hey, so in terms of like dilution, I know it like sucks because a lot of people have a high average,
Right.
but looking at like the price today, say they diluted the entire ATM at $4, okay? That's
Yep.
50 million shares. That would put this company at $200 million. So like,
Yep.
I'm saying like, should you buy today? Like that is a good deal to me. Like, not looking at your average, just like the current price today. Basically.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because I think that we've even talked about this in the past, and we should talk about it again in more detail, because I don't think people like really understand that if your thesis is that this company is at least $1 billion company, if not a multiple $1 billion company, based on its future revenue capacity on next generation, etc., then that kind of allows you to withstand dilution, right? Because, like, as Scott said, if the company just diluted, and it can't even be 50. I think they had like 48 million, and then
yeah, whatever they had.
and let's just say it's like less than 45 million at this point, or let's just call it 48 million, and they're diluting that at exactly, like $4. We're looking at a $200 million company at that point, right? Which sucks for us in the short term, because our equity has dropped, and now the valuation of the company has essentially skyrocketed, and we haven't realized any upside in that. It's all artificial on dilution, right? Now, let's say the company goes to $1 billion. Now, this is where you have to be careful. You have to kind of like track the valuation of the company as you're buying, instead of share price. I mean, you could track the share price and your cost basis, and then just essentially equate that to the market capitalization. And I guess you can do that now, because the company's not going to be reverse splitting in the near future, because I think that would be against the rules, so to speak, after this essentially 5,000 to 1 reverse split ratio they've done back-to-back years. So essentially what I'm saying is, okay, my cost basis is like 23 and change. A lot of people's cost basis is much, much, much higher. Like, let's take my girlfriend, for instance. She has a cost basis of like $730 per share or something like that, right? So what is the current valuation? I need to get let's see here. The current valuation of the company at 730 per share would be 730 times 4,477,321. That would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 79. Yeah, that would be a $3.2 billion company.
Yeah, I don't see it getting up back to there again. But
no, I mean
that's what
that's what I'm saying. That's kind of the wealth destruction that has occurred here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, But the good news is that even if you have that's kind of I wanted to bring that up because that's kind of, in my opinion, I don't know if anyone here listening has a higher share cost basis than $730. Because that would be essentially that would be you going through 2 reverse splits, dilution, and not averaging down the whole time over that period. And again, that was like a $96 purchase for funsies, and actually kind of a great experiment and case study as you have it, which is kind of nice, kind of brutal as well. But anyway, yeah, if the company's 200 million after diluting, essentially 40 some million, right? Then essentially you can still 5x and be a $1 billion company.
And if they did that, they'd have like 200 million in cash, which would give them like 13 quarters of runway at the current burn rate, and that's without any additional revenue. So,
well, I think that's probably even the better point, Scott, because I mean, it's one thing to 5x and get to a $1 billion company. That's speculation, but you got cash in the bank, right? And you could do all sorts of things with that. You could, increase your distribution channel by, you could do, little mergers of smaller companies, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the organic growth at that point is very nice.
yeah, like obviously I wouldn't want this to happen. I'm just saying, like, worst case scenario, like even the worst case scenario isn't terrible.
No, exactly. I agree. It would feel awful in the near term, but I agree. It would, again, long term, if you're an investor, like a real investor, that is in it for fundamentals that don't change, based on just the share price, then I think adding $200 million of, or I'm sorry, whatever it was, 50 million to $200 million, of capital absolutely sets you up in a materially different position than you were yesterday, right? And I don't even think that'll happen. And why wouldn't that happen? Because you have to also take into consideration what it would do to the share price. So yeah, you get MVLS compliant, but then you're also adding 48 million shares on in the context to a current 4.5, let's call it, million share outstanding company. That's 10x the selling pressure. You're going to tank the share price and then potentially be non-compliant with the $1, right? So that's kind of protection, in my opinion, right? So we have a worst case scenario that if they diluted all of the 48 million, it's still not horrible. You still could realize upside if it's a truly $1 billion company or more. And then you have the added scenario that it's likely not even going to happen to that extent because of the NASDAQ $1 kind of support level that we have right now, because the company cannot reverse split again. So that's a different situation the company's kind of been in since I've been invested. Like, and you could check me on that. I might be wrong. So, but my interpretation of the rule that I saw, maybe I can find the link and post it, but I believe the company can't do more than a certain ratio in a certain time frame. And right now they did a 50 to 1 and now 100 to 1. So it's 50 times 100, which is 5,000. And I don't even know what the threshold was. I thought it was like 200 to 1 or 250 to 1. So I don't even know how they got around that. So
I think it was within a year. So they like waited to the actual day that they could do it again.
Yeah, so maybe they could do another reverse split. Who the hell knows? I don't know. In that scenario, we're talking worst case scenario, guys. Okay, so we're starting this call off like dark and doomy.
yeah, but I was just bringing that up to just like
no,
say
it's
like
a good point.
where the share price is right now, like at $4, like even with worst case scenario, this is still a good buy to me, in my opinion. But
yeah, no, like obviously everyone has their own like finances, but in terms of like valuation, if you're looking for value of a company, I would agree that this is an undervalued company. If you don't think it's going bankrupt near term, then currently it's trading for less than cash, almost at a deep percentage less than cash, like 25% or more, and assets. And I understand they have liabilities, but again, guys, companies are traded at multiples of their revenue. Okay? We're not even trading for our cash. That's a company that's being valued for bankruptcy all day long. How could it not be? Tell me how it could not be currently valued for bankruptcy. I mean, even less than bankruptcy, right? Joe talked about this. He's short. Like if this thing goes bankrupt, let's go even more doom and gloom. This thing goes like Chapter 11 or some shit, and I'm not even a bankruptcy expert at all whatsoever. But in my opinion, to my knowledge, basic knowledge, you can liquidate assets in a bankruptcy, right?
Yeah, I've actually seen stocks like pop when they announce bankruptcy.
Oh, most of them
It's
do.
weird.
Yeah, that's kind of most of them. I've seen that happen, but that's like even speculation. But I agree. Yeah, most stocks when that happened, they actually pop. But it's a short term pop because if it's like going,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. So you could like trade that pop, but if you're an investor, that kind of sucks. But we're talking because this is a binary situation, right? It either goes bankrupt or it doesn't. So if you're trading for less than cash, in my opinion, that's Wall Street saying that this is going bankrupt, right? And so you think to yourself, well, how could this company go bankrupt with our 48 million ATM? As Scott highlighted, if we could raise millions of dollars, quarters and quarters and quarters of years even of runway through an ATM, how is this going bankrupt? Yeah, you could say dilution all day long. That's fine. But bankrupt? What do you mean? I don't get that at all. Right? So I just don't understand being short down here just from a technical perspective, from a fundamental perspective. I don't know. I think, I'm called emotional. I think the shorts are emotional down here. You're shorting a stock that's down negative 99.999%. Because the sentiment is shit, because it's being called a shit co, because of the dilution, because of I don't know. In my opinion, that's an emotional short position. That's not a technical or a fundamental. It's one thing to short based on like, okay, you made new lows, let's go short, and then I'll put a stop loss at, essentially where that new low was formed. Yada yada. That's one thing. What's up, Dave? But I don't understand being short unless there's a purely technical. I don't understand like the fundamental short here. We did, however, just touch the. What's up, Dave? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit on and off, but all good. Thanks. How are you? All right?
I'm good, man.
Yeah.
You feeling better?
Yeah, I am. I'm back to work and stuff. So all good. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
It's nice to see the share price going up today instead of going down.
Agreed.
Just a little question, really, for everyone, or you as you're speaking mostly. We're talking about bankruptcy and things like this, because I'm obviously not like a trader as such. It's just a hobby for me, really. And I understand what bankruptcy is and how it comes about. But when I look at this company that we're all invested in, to me, it does not say anything as such as bankruptcy. When we're talking about bankruptcy, are we talking about the share price, or are we actually talking about the actual company not to be able to produce the...
We're talking.
Go on, sorry.
I don't know why there's like a.
Mute
Mute your mic quick, Dave.
Yeah, it's an on and off thing, I think.
Yeah. Here, let me try that. Hey, Dave. Sorry,
That's okay, man. I can hear you now.
Here, I'm gonna mute you real quick. For some reason, Dave, I don't know why it has a reverberation on my end whenever I talk, and your speaker's on at the same time. So I'll just have to go. Like whenever you talk, I'll keep my speaker muted, and then when I respond, just mute your speaker right away. That way, it doesn't get a reverb. I don't know why it's doing that.
What I'll do, I'll sign out of my laptop and I'll go back on my phone because I think it works better that way. So
Okay, perfect.
I'll leave and I'll come back.
Okay, no worries.
Speak to you in a minute, bud. Bye.
All right. So essentially, oh, that's a bummer because I wonder if he's going to be able to listen to the response he had to the question. Well, I'll repeat it. I'll repeat it when he comes back. But I was talking, and I think we're all talking like real bankruptcy, like company not being able to produce. That's kind of what I when I look at the share price, I essentially see that this company. Oh, here we go, Dave. Perfect. Let's try this again. Yes. I think it's working much better now, Dave. Okay, very good.
Yeah, that's better. I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So your question, I believe what I was talking about at least is I'm talking about like the share prices reflecting, telling people this company is going bankrupt, like in real life, like not going to be able to pay its loan. It's going to run out of money, and it's going to go through some sort of bankruptcy, whether it's Chapter 11 or whatever other type of bankruptcy there is.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying is it doesn't make sense, right? As you're saying, one, you could say we could sit here and speculate about fundamentals and future potential revenue all day long, but at the end of the day, we have to pay the bills next quarter first, right? And we have to be able to have the cash to do that. So it's one thing to run out of money, okay, but we have an ATM that's available to us.
Yeah.
Like we can dilute 48 million shares on the open market at $4 a share currently. Obviously, that'll go down as the dilution occurs.
Yeah.
But that's the ability to raise at least 48 million, to 200 to 100 to 200 million of dollars. So in capital. So that gives you multiple quarters of runway. Yeah, it screws your common shareholders and their equity gets, screwed again.
Yeah.
But if we're talking this company is $1 billion company or more, as Scott said, there's still 5x upside or more.
Also, I mean, the other thing as well with the CRG as well, someone that I think on the last space call actually mentioned it. I was about to say, and he said it before me. I mean, they've not sort of converted any of their shares to sell, have they? And you would have thought they'd have done that by now, wouldn't you? If there would be any kind of chance of bankruptcy, surely.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything that they've converted, so I would agree. You would imagine that they would probably convert and sell if such an occurrence was going to happen. I also, though, Scott, I wanted to bring back, and sorry to like swap, but because I was thinking about this more, if they diluted that much, even if the company was $1 billion company or more, you would have been diluted essentially 10x. So I think you would
That'd
need
be like a $10 a share is what it'd be for
What do you,
$1 billion. If they diluted all of it, I'm saying. Oh wait, no. It'd be what would it be?
no, it would need to be much
20,
higher.
yeah, $20 a share.
I don't know. I'd have to do the math, but all I know is that if the company is currently at 4.5 million outstanding shares and they dilute 48 million, that would be essentially 10x dilution, right? So that you would need more than 10x upside after that to see a return, and I think even more. What's up, Weary?
Yeah, just to ask, do you know what the reporting rules are around dilution? How long can they go before they have to inform us that they're diluted?
Say that again about the dilution.
What's the reporting rules around it? How long do they have before they have to inform shareholders or some sort of press statement?
Yeah, good question. I think it's every quarter. If they have an active ATM that's available, I don't believe they have to actively report that as they're using it. I think it's just quarter to quarter updates on the earnings.
Forgive my ignorance, but could you explain the ATM for me? Is that, I mean, I know I'm guessing the metaphor is it's as a cash machine, but is that basically just drawing from shareholder value and not having to inform anyone for that reason?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on the ATM by any means, but to my knowledge, it's set up as a facility through Canaccord where the company can essentially just tap into it. I don't know if there's a certain like parameter of when they can do it or if it's just at their leisure and discretion. But Canaccord gets a certain percentage based on the transaction of that. So if they sell, 1 million shares at the market, they get like 3% of that transaction and the dollar amount volume. So it's really like juicy. I think it's a really big conflict of interest in my opinion, especially because Canaccord covers the stock and asks questions during the quarterly earnings. How can that be?
I do think there's a potential issue as well. Now the institutions have started to pour in. I mean, it's gone from what was it, almost 100% retail ownership to was it 11% institutions last time you said.
Yep.
Now you've got institutions coming in, they're not going to be happy about being diluted, I wouldn't have thought. And then I would have thought they would be more wary of diluting institutional shareholders.
You would think,
But
except for they've done it in the past, and then the institutions have all got out. So I there were, but I agree with you. I don't think it'll happen again. But in the past, because the company is just at a different fundamental inflection point in their pipeline. But in the past, what has happened, and it sent shivers down my spine. So like obviously, I've been here for 3 years, and I knew that Goldman had a pretty decent sized position, like pre-reverse split in the millions of shares. I think Vanguard had a very big position. I think they still have a decent position. I think Morgan Stanley had another. Like these big investment banks had positions in this, which isn't uncommon for them to have like a small amount of shares, because they are huge, multiple billion-dollar companies that they can just throw around millions of dollars like it's nothing. But essentially, they all sold out. I remember seeing one filing, like quarters ago. Like this was like maybe a year or more ago, before the October reverse split, I think, and of 2022. Maybe it was after the reverse split of 2022. That scared the shit out of me. Exactly, I know exactly what it was. It was 2022 after the reverse split. I had held through it, and then share price was like hovering around like $5, and then it tanked all the way down to $1, and then I had seen the delayed filing that all these institutions had sold, and I was like, oh good, like I'm just sitting here holding my dick, looking like an asshole who held through this reverse split. And since I'm invested and nothing had changed about the company except for all this dilution, I just kept averaging down. So, but you know, banks and shit, they're in the inside. They can sell opportune times and then they can get back in at the bottom. Like, you know, I can't trade like a bank. I'm not a bank, you know.
Yeah, like you said, the institutions have an edge, don't they? They get out before most of the damage is done. I find it interesting, and this is obviously why it's good speaking to you, because you've had this 3-year history of seeing this stuff.
Yeah.
Can you remember what the institutional ownership was when you first got in?
No, because I was an idiot back then. You know, I was still learning about how to like look at things like that, institutional ownership, short percentage interest, and everything like that. But I believe it was above 10% at least, based on just all of those, you know, big investment banks. And that was prior to the massive dilution that occurred just this past year. So their millions of shares, you know, held a pretty significant size. But there was never, in light of that, though, what always made me question, and I still don't understand, is like the insider ownership. The lack of insider ownership, because it's one thing to have institutional ownership, it's another to have insider ownership. But like I said before, if that was like your alpha, that you just trade companies that have a high insider ownership, you know, that's not necessarily edge, in my opinion. It's public information. There's a bunch of different reasons why, you know, insiders may or may not have shares. Like I said, in my opinion, if you knew that you were going to have to just raise capital, I wouldn't come in and just like buy my stock repeatedly any more than I had to. Especially if I'm compensated some few thousands of shares on top of my, you know, cushy $1 million salary, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely obviously a red flag, that, isn't it?
It is.
We know what the management are like now. I think nobody would dispute that the management has been nothing short of shocking, really, incompetence-wise, and sort of the way they treat shareholders.
Yeah, I like these spaces because it gives us kind of, you know, no pun intended, a space to get together and speculate on what our thoughts are on the true intentions of management. Obviously, you and I will never know. You and I, meaning all of us in general, will never know the true intentions because we aren't them, and only a person knows their true intentions, and then certainly we're not in the boardroom. So all you can do is go based on their public and even private interactions that we have some privy to. And John, if you can sum up John 𝗪𝗧𝗛, confusing, I think would be the best word that I would use. That's the first word that just comes to mind. Gut instinct, confusing. Because I've been so back and forth on this guy. Like, he's got that story that kind of warms your heart a little bit and makes him human. But then his salary makes him inhuman and completely unrelatable, and even makes you a little bit angry in context to the revenue that the company generates. And because that's putting pressure on the company, which then puts pressure on the shareholder. So there's a very conflicting dynamic there. And I think that's what's difficult. But then you look at, just in terms of the pure objectives of shareholder return, share price return over 3 years. I mean, the amount of dilution, the amount of reverse splits. I mean, this has really, really destroyed some retail here. And unless this guy is truly going to pull a rabbit out of a fucking black hat and perform this magic trick of poof, we've been bought for $1 billion or more, and just fucking melts faces down here at all-time lows and gets the fucking thing done, then the guy has to go. Unless he can do that, then the guy has to go.
So, Cam, obviously there are directors of the company that own the company. in my opinion, I mean, what goes through their mind having this guy sitting in the realm of their business, watching it just go to shit? How does that work? That's what confuses me.
Well, I've worked in several establishments where it's funny. I've worked, because I what comes to mind is the chief operating officer. I don't know her name or her name, but they were awarded shares, a decent amount of shares, pre-reverse split, pre-dilution. And I just think to myself, you just hired this person on, awarded them shares, and then put them through a reverse split and diluted them. I understand the shares vest over a certain period of time, 3 years. So yeah, they're long the company. They understand the long-term goal. But you literally just took away their equity in the company. You just took it away.
Yeah.
Right? Every time you dilute a common shareholder, you take away their fucking equity. So it doesn't matter if the upside is $1 billion or more. You just limited their upside by taking away their equity in that $1 billion valuation. That's the fucked up part about dilution. That's why on Shark Tank, they come in and they always ask, are there any other investors? Right? Because they want to know if they're going to be diluted further on down the line. Just like their previous investors are about to get diluted with them coming in. And
His name was Steve Miller. Just sorry to interject.
who's Steve Miller?
Yeah, is the vice president of operations that we hired that we gave.
Oh, Steve Miller. Okay, got it. Do we know how many shares he was awarded?
It was 40,000 before the reverse split. So
yeah, so 40. So he has 40 shares or
400.
400.
Yep.
So he has 400 shares. Jesus fuck. So so 40. All right, do we know what share price that was at, Scott?
I think that was around like 30. I don't know exactly. I'd have to look at the filing, but
okay, I know. We'll just call it 30 cents. So that's like $12,000, right? I just did 40,000 times 30 cents. So now he has, right, 400 times $4.12. $1,000, 600 or $1,648. So you just awarded the chief operating officer that you just hired $12,000, and now it's worth less than $2,000 on paper. Now, again, in reality, it doesn't matter because he didn't have access to those shares anyways. They have to vest. Maybe he has some privilege, I don't know, being a vice president of whatever. But I called him the chief operating officer. I shouldn't have said that. He's the vice president of operations. That does something to somebody emotionally. I don't give a fuck if you have access to it or not. That if you see something, I mean, I guess maybe it's nothing to them because they're just like rich, motherfuckers, and it's money is no object to them, and they just do this shit for fun and for ego and for other reasons. I don't know, but a normal human being, a quote unquote normal, an average person, that's gonna make them kind of upset. And that's the vice president of operations. Right? So I don't know. Yeah, I agree. There has to be some strife internally in the company. In my opinion, the best news would be that John Sperzel's fired. I don't know. I think that could be the news that nobody. I don't know. Are we anticipating that? Do you guys actually anticipate? I know we joke around about it, but do you think it'll happen or no?
I don't think so.
I'm not so sure personally.
See? So like this is the good part. That makes me kind of happy because I'm like this is the speculation in me, the contrarian in me, where it's like if we're not anticipating it, maybe that is like not a black swan, but like kind of like a white swan event where the market is not pricing in the CEO getting sacked.
Here comes
And
the
then-
pretzels.
And then here comes the pretzels, yeah, from the crowd. Boo.
Sorry, I had to throw that in.
Yeah. Do you think everyone so far has said no for Spurzl actually being sacked? What do you think? Do you think yes or no? Or?
I think he should, but will he? I doubt it. See, the board of directors, that's up to them.
Sure.
So you got a guy like Terry there that sort of, well, I don't know if it's true, you know, on his remarks there that he loves the guy, basically. So,
Yeah, but again, that's public. We talked about that.
yeah,
could be
I know.
public.
Yep, I agree.
But I don't know. If you've approached him in the past for a buyout and it hasn't worked out, and these people do hold a little bit of stock in the company, right? I don't know. Like some of these board members hold stock in the company. I don't know if Thierry does. I think he does. Pretty sure he does.
Yeah, I doubt if it's much, but
Yeah, it's nothing, material in my opinion, compared to our positions.
No.
And so, but that being said, it's like they also have not had a good shareholder return from this guy. And if you've tried to negotiate with them in the past on like a merger acquisition deal and it hasn't gone well, and 3 years later he's still there, and we're just, where are we? You know what I'm saying? We're in quicksand. Then I don't know. In my opinion, that would be incentive for the board to try someone else.
Yep, agree.
You know what makes me think they won't sack him? That the board is complicit and it's sort of high-level corruption, potentially.
Well, that has to be the alternative, right? Because logically, you sack him at this point if you're the board. So if you're not, then the next logical explanation, in my opinion, is exactly what you just said. Complicity of keep the idiot in charge.
You could also speculate that the conspiracy theorist in me thinks of the Thierry Bernard, however you say his name. Is he there just to keep an eye on John and make sure he's still messing it up?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly benefits his company, the worse T2 does, no doubt. I mean, on paper, does it not? They're direct competitors in the molecular diagnostic space. They have a PCR product. If T2 gets to market before that PCR product, which is bringing them in hundreds of millions of dollars a year, I mean, isn't that a problem? I don't know. I think it's a problem. I think it's a big problem. So I think he has to keep an eye on the company. And so he either keeps an eye on the company and suppresses the company, or you buy the company or negotiate to buy the company. I don't know. But calling him a great CEO is like silly. I mean, like what makes him a great CEO? Truly, I want to know what makes John Spurzl a great CEO. Other than his ability to show up to a meeting and look professional and speak professionally.
What self-respecting board wouldn't fire him by now?
Anybody can read off a script.
Yeah, I mean,
You don't have to be a professional to read off a script.
For sure. I agree. I mean, he's uninspiring, which is hilarious because he's a motivational speaker.
And I've always said it, he's got no credentials, no background in biotech, none of that.
No, I mean, the guy has just anecdotal experience, which, I mean, it's something, but he has no objective experience. What's up, Love Flare?
Hey, nothing much. So I'm just trying to do a little more research on QIAGEN and see how they kind of transact with acquisitions and things like that. So I do see that they made a acquisition at the top of the year in January for a company for like 150. So I wonder if that's something that's on their radar for maybe Q1, Q2 probably.
Yeah, I just like we talk about Thermo Fisher, we talk about Danny here, we talk about all these other companies, but I agree with you, LaFleur. I mean, it's like if Thierry Bernard's there to suppress it or to watch it or whatever, how didn't he fail his job if the company gets bought out and it goes somewhere else and the threat still exists elsewhere? I mean, isn't that an utter failure? I don't know. In my opinion, it is. It's like, unless he's purely on the board to just collect a $50,000 paycheck or whatever it is.
No, I doubt that.
Right? It's not worth his time.
That's pocket change with these guys. 50 grand, that's pocket change.
Yeah, it's not worth their time, right?
No, exactly. And he's been there for what, over 2 years?
Ever since I've been here, so over 3 years. So
okay, there you go.
yeah, I mean, I to my knowledge, so that was one of the big things that I liked about him. I'm like, what's this QIAGEN director do, or CEO sitting on the board? What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? I was like, so I'm like, how does this company not go anywhere but QIAGEN? I don't know.
Yeah, doesn't make sense.
It wouldn't make sense to me. It would be an utter shock unless they just got, outbid and they just don't have the pocketbooks to, which would be great for us. And what can he do about that if you just get outbid from a pure money perspective and it's just a financial thing? You know what I'm saying? That's what the big boys have. They just have more money and they can just say, fuck you. Goodbye. We'll pay a premium. So, because they just need a little bit of growth, right? Whereas QIAGEN needs a lot of growth, which means QIAGEN needs a little bit of a deal. Danny here needs less of a deal, in my opinion. So, yeah, I don't know. I've always said that in this for years on StockTwits. I've always speculated that this thing goes to QIAGEN. It's just going to be when, in my opinion, and how much. So you just brought up LaFleur. What was it? $150 million that they paid in January of what was it last year, or maybe before that? I'll have to look myself.
Yeah, I was about to send the article.
Yeah, no worries. So if the company has some precedence of transacting in a January timeframe, that would kind of align with what the technicals are showing here, as we're just kind of like flattening out, bottoming out. Let me look at that link that you just sent. Let's see here. Corporate.QIAGEN.com completes acquisition of Virigen, strengthening leadership in human ID / forensic with NGS Technologies. I'm just scrolling. Usually it has like the share price like right now. Yeah, 150 million in cash paid from existing reserves. Interesting. And this was January 9th of 2023. So this year. Wow. Are they going to go on a spending spree? Back-to-back Januaries, guys? I wonder what the price would be, though. That's the question, right? That was the post that I said. I don't know when. I don't know how much. But one day, these shorts are going to wake up just absolutely melted, shocked, don't know what to do. I don't know, I could be wrong. Maybe we all get screwed and they get bought out for like 50 mil. No, I'm just kidding.
What do you think the chances are of an activist investor moving in and just booting them all out at some point?
Yeah, there's so many that's the great thing about being invested, is because we don't really short of bankruptcy, we don't care what happens, and short of like massive dilution, like whether it's organic growth, the pathways are there, the revenues are there, the market is there to be taken. And we're going to be the first based on the FDA timeline. Even if the competitors behind us have a more promising product, they haven't gotten through FDA. So we have that. We could have an activist investor come in and be like, all right, enough is enough. Let's get this thing done. Kind of like Canon, although they were less activists and they just wanted a royalty and they were like a passive partnership with, T2 Lyme in the past. So I agree, yeah, that could happen. But I just think more likely, because of the threat of the technology and what it can take away in like market share, the next gen, and even T2 Lyme, I think it just has to be bought. I think it just has to be taken off the market. Because
That's the most logical choice, isn't it?
yeah, because right, if an activist investor comes in and they like pursue an organic pathway, it's going to be brutal for us because we're just going to meet so much resistance from all these big pharma interests that are hidden or even in the light. Just a straight up obvious fuck you. Nothing being done about it. So an activist investor would be great, but I still would just prefer, honestly, I've said this before, I'll say it again, just buy me out. Stop the bleeding. Even if it's less than what I would get organically over 10 years, if we saw this thing out. It's just, you can only take so much emotional pain. I'll stay for 10 years if I have to, but I would prefer a buyout scenario. Just because there's just been a lot of emotional time and investment and pain involved in just holding this stock over this period of time. And it would be nice to be able to go and pursue other, maybe like active trading and diversification in other stocks and other things like that. But I'm going to stay heavy and keep averaging or dollar cost averaging, and until the value is seen, or until I'm forced out of my position through a bankruptcy or some shit. It's I guess a obvious question would be like, what would you do in terms of if this company came out and like filed a Chapter 11 or something? Would you hold? Would you sell? Would you trade it? Would you like trade the pump and sell on that pump and then get back in at the downside, or just leave it alone at that point? What would you do? And I obviously would have to entertain that scenario because it's a possible scenario. We talked about the ATM making it less possible, but I would say that in that case, what I would probably do, it's difficult, I don't know. You would be tempted to sell a technical rip to the upside at a resistance level, and then what I would do if I did do that is, honestly, because there has been companies that come out of a Chapter 11 through restructuring and actually survive, I'd be tempted to buy in again. I'd have to do a lot of research into actually how a Chapter, like 11 or other type of bankruptcy goes down before I would actually make that decision. But the good news is I just don't think it's going to happen. But since we're up here speculating about the upside, speculate about the downside. Since I'm not a pumper and we're just talking education, I don't think a lot of people have been through Chapter 11. I think Space Ghost knows a little bit about it. What's up?
Yeah, your trading philosophy made sense right there. I just wanted to jump up being involved with the bankruptcy play. If I'm just saying this, if bankruptcy was in your cards, it would make sense to drop your position, and then if you truly believe in your company, you buy back at the low. Because what's going to happen with a Chapter 11 is that you're going to be delisted. You're going to get a Q slapped on the end of your ticker. It'll be TTT or TTOOQ. And
Yeah.
then that's going to go to the OTC, and the OTC is going to kick this stock in the balls.
Mm-hmm.
So the almost inevitable drop. So, you know, there's always some asshole that might be running the market maker in this call or some shit, and he's going to be like, ha ha, I'm going to fuck you up. And he's going to go to the OTC, and then it fucking goes up 8,000%.
Yeah, right.
Because you never fucking know. You never know.
No, I've seen stocks in the OTC. I mean, that's why, like, obviously we don't want to go to the
No.
OTC as investors, but like, it doesn't mean that your upside is just gone. Like, shit rips at the OTC all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that, but stuff like this, like the statistics are saying that it's going to drop down. So if it's trading at $1, you're going to be driving down to around 13, 15 cents.
Yeah, it'll take it in that scenario, which I want to preface that I don't believe it'll happen here because of our ATM facility that's available to us.
Sure.
But in the case, yeah, I would agree. That's kind of how it would. At least that's how I've seen it played out with like Hertz. Hertz was a great example.
BBBY, AVCT.
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on with these bankruptcies. ENDP.
Yeah, there's like accounts on Twitter that are like bankruptcy, like that's what they do. That's what their edge is. They like just trade bankruptcy plays.
Well, look at what ENDPQ. Like that's a doozy of a use case to study if you think that there's a slight potential for a biotech to go into a bankruptcy, just to be prepared. You know, they have all these pharmaceuticals, and they had actually sold some out to take care of some of their liens and blah, blah, blah. They still had all these potential bidders for a stalking horse in Chapter 11 of the likes of Thermo Fisher, Walmart, like big players. And
right.
And ENDBQ stock, I can't remember their market cap, but their stock is just fucking like 0.0001. And at the time when this was all popping down, it was like 9 cents. So a significant drop. And that thing's still in the court. So
yeah, no, what would be actually more interesting for me would be I wanted to do this today, was kind of, I don't know, search Reddit. It would be nice to have that Hodor. You guys need to tag that guy and get him in these calls, or at least one of these calls. I'm dying to have him in here and talk to him, because for the main reason of from what I've seen, he's been through multiple biotech buyouts, and usually through options. He's usually realized it. So it would be nice to hear, like, hey, like, you know, what's the timeline on these? How do these usually play out? It would actually be cooler to hear about the ticker symbol so that I can go back and maybe look at the price action and what happened in relation to the 9 EMA in terms of like a mean reversion, anything like that. Because so obviously from the technical aspect, my edge, you know, obviously my edge from a fundamental aspect is my personal experience with sepsis and diagnosing it and being a PA in the medical field. But my technical edge is this standard deviation mean reversion play that I have back tested and have a very high win rate, but just haven't executed from an allocation standpoint to be profitable on from a trading perspective to date. But I would say that the 9 EMA reversion, I think, is invalidated when a scenario like a buyout occurs, because the company's not coming in and just like looking at the 9 EMA or the mean, historical mean of the price. They're going to buy it for whatever value they believe is fit for their finances and etc. So I don't think the 9 EMA really comes into play in a buyout scenario, which is interesting. And it kind of makes sense too, because if I look at like the quarterly 9 EMA, it's like at $1,400, and it's like that's a little ridiculous. It would put the stock at a I mean, you know, I say it's ridiculous, but then when I say the valuation of the company could be $1 billion or multiple billion, that would really put the stock at I believe like a $6 or $7 billion valuation. So it's like, right, Theranos was valued at $10 billion. So to say this is at 7 billion is like, it's shocking, no doubt. But I think that's like the realized potential of this company. Or certainly, you would need to have like some sort of revenue to back that valuation on the next gen platform, and that would take years. So in a buyout scenario, I don't think you see like a multiple billion-dollar buyout. I think more in reality, if I were to ground myself, I see it in the hundreds of millions, if not a billion, like a 1 point something. You know what I'm saying? That would be, in my opinion, like a premium. That would make, nope, it would not make my girlfriend whole. Sad. That's fucking crazy. Oh man, the power of dilution, the destruction of dilution. These are our capital markets, guys. I don't know what we're gonna do about it. Can't keep this up though. We're gonna just steal people's money. You're killing the client. They need to take advice from Mexican cartel or the Colombian cartels. Rule number one. I don't know if this is rule number one. Don't kill the client off. Who the fuck are they gonna sell to? Client's all dead from the product. I don't know. That's how I view dilution, like fentanyl. Right? They're like getting rich off the dilution, artificially keeping their companies alive, listed on this NASDAQ, getting paid obscene salaries. It's fucking drugs, dude. It's fentanyl. But the weird part is they're selling the fentanyl and we're taking it and we're overdosing on it. Not to be, well, I am being morbid. Because, yeah, I know that we're not dying physically, but it's just wealth destruction. It's financial death. I mean, when you take $12,000 and then turn it into $1,000 by doing nothing but reverse split diluting the stock, it's just, it's theft. So, but we can sit here and whine about it. The only thing you can do about it is, if you're in a company that you truly believe in long term, is you can try and just average down. You could try and trade around the dilution, like sell your position, buy back after dilution you think is completed. There's all sorts of ways you could do it. Obviously, I'm not executing well around it. But you live and you learn. This is my first hard-hitting investment from like a size standpoint, from a conviction standpoint. So I'm young, and it's okay. It won't kill me. It'll just make me stronger. And for the next investment, which if I live a long life, surely there will be another. But luckily, I think this one's going to, pay me or pay us well enough to realize a positive return, and the size of that positive return is yet to be determined. I don't know if it'll be life-changing for me or not. The greedy part of me wants it to be. The fundamentals tell me that it should be, but we know that reality just doesn't work that way. What should happen, what should not happen is kind of irrelevant. But I think the objective facts are pointing towards a QIAGEN transaction. And if they just spent $150 million this January, 11 months ago, I mean, I don't know what that company did. I have a gut feeling that T2 is more valuable than that company just based on what I was reading in that article briefly. And we know that the company has a max valuation in the past. Historically, it's traded, at least in the past, at 250 million or in that realm, 200 to 250 million. So I think that, I keep bringing that back. I do think that 250 million is probably the base at where you would start valuing the company, and that puts the share price at, let's see here. Yeah, like $55. Pretty sure I did that right. So that sucks for people, right? I mean, if you bought back just in, what is that, August, up there at $70, if you like top tick this sucker, you know what I'm saying? Or really, I mean, it traded sideways there in the 40s, kind of 30s, 40s. I guess you would come out okay if you have a share price in the 30s and it, bought you out in the 50s, you would double your money almost. But if you, bought at 70, you kind of are getting screwed, getting realized loss there. So, and I think 250 is quite cheap for this company just based on its pure potential. No, I'm not talking current revenue. I'm not talking anything like that. So, I mean, even even a 500 million. I think a lot of people voted for that 250 to 750 million valuation. Oh, sorry, LaFleur. I was like looking up. What do you think, man? Above 250, less than 250, less than 150, above 150? This is all speculation.
I voted above 250.
Above 250? Yeah.
But I also wanted to kind of see how T2's impact in the industry compares to CRISPR, because CRISPR's been going ballistic since we've been talking about it.
Dude, you know what's funny about CRISPR? Do you remember, maybe not, on the space call, I specifically remember saying that I could just sell my position in T2 and just go into CRISPR leap option contract and make all my money back. And if I would have done that on my January call, I would have made more than 1,000%, which is fucking hilarious. So maybe I should have put my money where my mouth was. But no, it's all good. That's the shit that kills you even more during this period of time, by the way. Not only am I sitting down here unrealized losses, the shit that I'm calling out is like actually doing what I'm saying it's going to do. But to answer your question, CRISPR's like market capitalization is in the multiple billions currently, I think, right? Let's look. Let's see here. CRISPR's at $70 a share. Yeah, their market cap's at 5.6 billion. Which, right, I think is what T2 could be in the realm of. But I don't, whether we realize that as shareholders or not is, another story. But CRISPR, they operate off of the CRISPR protein, which is the Cas9 protein, which actually comes from bacteria. It's basically how bacteria have evolved to withstand any number of different conditions that are inhumane. Basically, they have the ability to splice their own genome in their little bacterial, cells with this CRISPR protein, and we have recently extracted that and applied it, therapeutically in our own medical realm through for various different things. Different companies utilize the Cas9 CRISPR protein differently. And I think that makes sense from a capitalist and competitive standpoint. You want to go, if there's new technology that opens up this vast realm of possibilities, comes to market, then you want to essentially find a little niche and then hone in on that and build a moat around that. And that's what you're seeing with all these different companies, especially that ARC-G ETF through Cathie Wood's ARC Fund. It really does basically hone in on CRISPR, really. I mean, genetics in general, but a lot of CRISPR. So it's funny that this company is called CRISPR because it was one of the first. And it was founded by one of the scientists that kind of found this technology. But they, I believe, are honing in, like, their niche market is going to be sickle cell and some lymphomas, I believe, like through CAR T therapy, which are CAR T cells, which is oncology, basically. So that I don't know. I think it has the capacity from my research that's been kind of limited in that area. I think that company might have the ability to, I don't know, hopefully cure, quote unquote, sickle cell anemia, which would be interesting. It would be amazing for millions of patients globally. Maybe even more than millions. I don't know the number of people who suffer from that. I remember my time at in Cleveland. I worked for 7 months before I moved to Colorado with my girlfriend. I worked on the oncology. So there was a stem cell transplant floor. There was a solid tumor floor, and then there was like a like a blood cancer, lymphoma, leukemia, and also sickle cell floor. And my patients that suffered from sickle cell anemia, it was heartbreaking because you would essentially get to know these patients because they would come in so frequently from their sickle cell pain crises. And they would basically just be so dependent and tolerant on very high levels of opioids that would it would definitely kill you or I. It would send us into cardiac respiratory arrest. But they're just able to tolerate it because they've, throughout their livelihood, starting at a young age, have been introduced to just these strong opioids to just deal with life. So I think that's where the valuation of that company probably is being baked in right now, even though they don't even have the current cure. It's like, if they could potentially, I don't know what's the value of that. I really don't know. It's obviously invaluable from a human standpoint, but from a capitalist standpoint, I don't know what like the market is there. But
I've stayed quiet because I don't want anyone to hear me huffing and puffing on the treadmill.
You're always working out, man. You have good habits.
This is my lunchtime break. But they're saying $1.2 million per treatment of that. So you do that times however many, you're talking billions of dollars for profit revenue.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, so I would love to. That's why, like, I kind of want to get bought out with T2 because there are current things that I want to be invested in and diversify in.
You should read the article. You should read the article that came out yesterday.
Oh, really?
How this one analyst was saying a $10,000 investment in CRISPR could make you a millionaire in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah,
and that's just $10,000.
Now it's funny though. I'll say this: my mentor, Trendy John, would say that news comes out at areas of supply and demand. Okay,
Of course.
So what do we see here? We see the stock has just moved from 39 all the way up to 75 in the period of a couple of weeks. And now we're getting articles up here at Resistance saying a $10,000 investment in CRISPR could net you $1 million. in however many years. Now watch this. Price is going to retrace another 20% to the downside after that article came out.
Well, the reason why I say no is because, buy the rumor, sell the news.
Yeah.
Everyone was buying the rumor of the EU approving the treatment. Well, they did that last week. Right. Now, the next one up is December 8th for the FDA. Some would argue that the EU can be actually more strict than the FDA. So if the FDA actually passes this December 8th, your January 19th calls on 100 are going to pay out like crazy. Not financial advice.
Oh, I mean, dude, they already have paid out like crazy, my friend. I mean, I bought that at a 0.85. They're in the money. They're in the money by $10.
No, what I'm saying though is the January 19th, you can still get them at the $2 range per option, each contract. Look it up, January 19th, 100 call.
Oh, but my friend, I bought the January 1960 call.
I bought the December 15th 55 call.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, no.
They already paid, man. Like the trade is done.
All right, 100%.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like right now, if I were a market maker, I would be selling that. I would be selling that premium to.
Oh, I sold 100% of it.
Yeah. No, I would be, if I were trading CRISPR right now, the way I would be trading this stock is I would be selling covered or naked calls at the 75 strike all day long. Yeah.
100.
Yeah, because this thing has just taken an absolute move. But yeah, no, I mean, getting back to T2, I mean, that's if we can get a buyout here, then we could go have some fun elsewhere, you know what I'm saying? And I would love to obviously I'm not just going to disappear if T2 pays us. I would love to stick around and continue having these calls and talk about more technical analysis and fundamentals about other companies. Because I think I think we've built a nice little community here that likes to learn and likes to engage with each other, and I think everyone can learn from each other here at least. But in terms of, I looked at the weekly chart on T2, and we're still big gap. We're inside last week essentially, and the MACD's like kind of curling out here. So if this week truly did put in a bottom down here at 376, and I use the word bottom like very loosely because obviously we could just tank today and make new lows and there's a new bottom, like who the hell knows? It's very fragile down here. But if this, weekly chart is putting in this pivot low at 376 and we're inside this week, then potentially we could see either another inside week next week holding that pivot low, maybe even retesting it and making a double bottom formation, right? Or we could see a breakout to the upside for an inside and up formation, which would, if that's the case, it would have to break the current highs of this week, which would be 433. And the 9 EMA is all the way up at 954, which is almost congruent with my resistance level. Right now I have resistance levels at $5.40, $9, and $14.70.
Sounds about right. And since everyone's already heard me huffing and puffing, I'll give you 15 more seconds. I've been on here for about 45 minutes to answer a couple questions.
No.
Is John going anywhere? No chance. He's staying. And then my valuation is between 200 and 400.
200 and 400. Yeah, 400 would be an interesting one.
Yeah.
That would put it at $100 450 would put it at $100 a share, right? Yeah.
Right.
And there's definitely a technical level at that $1.08, which is 108 now. So that would be what, like 400 million and change and something like that. Yeah, 400 million would be an interesting number. I could definitely see that happening. I could see anything happening from 250 to 750, honestly. I would be shocked and surprised and very, very happy and cherry on top if we got $1 billion valuation. But honestly, I'm just not like, I'm not greedy at this point. I want to be made whole first. And then after that, if I can make a couple more, if I could, what would be nice is if I could be bought out at a valuation that's higher than this pivot high in August, so that I don't have to feel so bad about holding. That's a pure emotional thing. But well, that's not true. It's not emotional. It's also in line with, obviously, I think this is a multiple billion-dollar company, so anything closer to that valuation is definitely going to make me feel better, right? Because if this thing gets bought out at 400, yeah, I'll be happy, I guess, but I'll still be kind of pissed off. You know what I'm saying? I'll be happy, but I'll be pissed.
My first goal, and I said this in a comment to someone else already, my first goal is for everyone to become whole again. Meaning just break even right now and then just see some positive.
Well, dude, if everyone was made whole, my girlfriend's included, and we got to go above 700.
I should have said after this last reverse split.
Be careful with that, brother.
I don't know about if your girlfriend's ever going to see that money again, but
So
I think we can all pull together and give her a little change.
Yeah, we can do this. Can we give a little? Can we make the $96 whole again?
Exactly.
That's funny as hell. What's up, Flair?
No, so I'm just thinking short term wise with the Lyme contest and everything. Is that of value? What kind of impact do we think the market can maybe interpret that news or information that we get from that?
Yeah, so the judge for phase 2, I believe, announces the results sometime in December for phase 2, and the prize money is $250,000, I believe. So not a whole lot of money, but what they could do with that $250,000, there's a number of different things. I imagine it'll go towards commercialization efforts and either trials or further trials or just the money involved in the submission process for LDT or the FDA 510K pathway for Lyme. Or what they could do is just keep that stowed away in the safe deposit for their CRG cash covenant. I imagine they already have that taken care of, and I imagine they already are investing that money passively in T-bills, I hope, so that they can make a little bit of interest back on that money that they're just keeping. But who the fuck knows what goes on behind doors of that company financially? Hooligans. So I think from a market response, yeah, how could you not interpret that from a bullish perspective? I mean, it's more cash coming in for the company. It's advancement of our pipeline, especially our T2 Lyme pipeline, which is just one product, by the way. We don't even need to have 250 gram stains or 250 pathogens and 36 some gram stains. We just need Borrelia burgdorferi, which causes Lyme, being able to be the best on the market and commercialized. It's just one pathogen. So that's why that post was so long-winded. I don't understand, and maybe they are, but it should be priority number one. What's up, Mr. Mark?
Hey, how you doing there? So
I'm okay, man. How are you?
good, long time listener, or whatever they say. Hey, I've been I've been out of the country for about 10, 12 days. Really didn't look at anything for I knew it was bad. So I just wanted to enjoy time with my wife in Mexico. So then have to deal with the reality when I came back. But I sort of got into this thing. Just saw a recommendation at about 12 cents and sort of bought a bunch and should have bought a lot more, and then bought more going up and up and up, and you know, I'm probably a little bit short of. I like to keep, you know, the pre-split in my head because, you know, otherwise my head's going to explode. You know, I probably have almost a million shares, you know,
Right.
pre-split. So I am down big time, and you know, I had a, yeah. So I own 4 restaurants, so I guess I got greedy and I was kind of looking for a big payday so I could sell these things at a loss and enjoy my life. So I guess that didn't turn out too good for the moment. But you know,
it's funny that you say greedy because, you know, we talk about fear and greed all the time, and I'm in a similar scenario. I have, you know, pre-reverse split, let's call it 460,000 shares. So probably like half your position or a little bit less or more than half, whatever. So we're in a similar boat. Obviously, I'm younger than you, but I'm not a business owner. I don't have 4, you know, business assets. But in terms of that mentality of you know, obviously work a very stressful job, you know, seeing like 50, 60 patients during a 12-hour shift over a period of years does wear on you. And I know that in the context of, you know, working for 20 or 30 years, it's nothing. But absolutely, I had the mentality of I would love to just have a payday and be able to drop down to, because I want to keep practicing medicine lifelong because I love it. But I would love to have the ability to have the discretion of when I work. So, you know, dropping down to part-time or as needed, PRN. Much like you wanted to kind of like, you know, exit out of your businesses and kind of go and enjoy your life. I don't think that makes us greedy. I think that makes us human, because who the fuck, like, we live in a country, and I'm just going to call you Mark, and you can tell me if you want to be called something else.
no,
but
Mark is great. That's my name. I don't hide it.
Perfect. So yeah, Mark, we live in a country, assuming you're here in the States, that you know, if you've traveled abroad, had the chance to go to Europe, I mean, like, it's night and day the lifestyle that we have over here in the States. We just grind for a living. That's it. We just fucking work and we die our entire life. Or you own a business, but that's an entirely different stress involved. Most people glorify entrepreneurship. It's a totally different stress. You are in charge of other people's livelihoods, and you carry loans and other things. So I would say that it doesn't make us greedy to want to be able to maybe step back from the grind a little bit, whether that means retirement for you, whether that means not working, you know, for 10 to 12-hour shifts a week, and maybe just taking one less shift a week and enjoying that with my family. You know what I'm saying? That's not fucking greedy, dude. I'm not promised tomorrow. You're not promised tomorrow. We're not greedy.
I totally understand. And you know,
But I think we got fucked.
Yeah. So are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I had a business before. I had one restaurant, and then still had the business, and then in the middle of selling it, and then COVID came, and you know, that's, you know, what bank is going to give anybody a loan for a restaurant in the middle of COVID? And then the last 3 years, you know, I acquired 3 more, and people tell me, "Hey, congratulations!" And I said, "No, condolences." So, you know, and it's, I never thought, you know, I really am the opposite of diversified. Everything is, you know, I've got probably about $1 million in a stock fund from an annuity I got a long time ago. I forget about it, and you know, I've got my restaurants. I have no debt really, but I never thought that, you know, I could take an investment of about, you know, including options, and I haven't looked at the options. I listen to people where they're at. I mean, forget it. So I'm at the point of just, you know, I did this a couple years ago where I did so badly. I'm such a bad trader that I had this company that was going to be bought out, and they kept saying it. So I literally did not look at stocks or my account for 2 years. And
Okay.
about 5 months, I opened up my stock account and the company got bought out. And, my account went up 3 times. Great. So here I am again doing the same thing and just getting over leveraged. I never thought, I mean, I know, I think I mentioned, and, I'd like to triple down. I had one of my restaurants had a fire. So I got paid out.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
What did I do about, right before this crazy split?
Oh, we might have lost you if you're traveling in a car. You might be in like a tunnel or something.
No, I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah,
Say it again.
all right. Yeah. At my I'm at my burned out restaurant looking at it. I'm waiting for more insurance to come through because I want to take another 40 grand basically and double my position. And
Yeah.
I drive by the bank because I have to do a wire transfer. And it's like, do I want to go in there today? No, I'm going to wait another day. And another, so I know at some point it is absolutely unexplainable how we can be here. How I have never heard or seen or been involved in something that is so brutally fucked up. I mean, these guys have literally grinded this mother down for, it's been 3 years. I've only been in it for, 4 months. It's like they've grinded. What is the purpose of it? And I just know if I would ever exit, this company is going to be bought out or something's going to happen because the technology is worth $1 billion plus. I mean, come on, it's approved. I believe, and I don't know what the hell's going on behind the scenes, but this fucker has, I mean, you know what? When people start calling a CEO by his first name, you're going to get screwed.
Yeah, probably right.
I had an old boss from Brooklyn, my first executive job. He said, never fall in love with your ball players because they're going to fuck you down the road. So that's what happened. Everybody starts calling him John. I said, we're thinking, and I had him answer me 3 times, John on LinkedIn, 3 times, like the last time, like you, a few days before the split. And it's like, oh, this guy's my best buddy. I even showed my wife. She's, oh man, he sounds like a great guy. And, he has this great story and he had, the problem. He was in the hospital and almost died and a heart transplant. Like, how can you not trust this guy? And he stuck it up right everybody's backside. It's like, I always say never trust anybody. And you get caught. You get into that excitement and this is gonna be it. Now, the last time I showed my wife where we're at 61 cents. I mean, really 61 cents.
Right.
And she's asked a couple times, oh, we're doing okay. I mean, if I show her, hey, look we're at 370, she says, oh my God, we're doing great. Well,
That was after the first split on.
yeah. So I know something, as strange this has all been and unexplainable, something's going to happen just the opposite.
No, I agree.
Because that's I don't know what it is.
That's how life works. At least in my 30 years of experience, that's how life has kind of worked for me. Is like, whenever I think shit can't get worse, typically something comes along where it just surprises me. And obviously here, yeah, I'm biased and this is money, it's a different ball game, but like, I agree. If so it's one thing. That's why we've been kind of thrown out into this realm of like, gamblers that just want paid and blah, blah, blah. I've been here for 3 fucking years.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
3 years. And I know it sounds like a broken record, but I keep saying it because it's impressive. Like I haven't met very many people who have held a security for 3 years to the upside even, let alone to the downside or flat. So it's like, this isn't a get rich quick scheme for me. You're damn right. After 3 years, I thought I was finally going to get paid, right? And just because you entered 4 months ago, it doesn't mean you want to get rich quick. It just means you were lucky, right? It's like you stumbled on this thing when it basically found its all-time low. But then you got unlucky, like the rest of us, right? When we got the rug swept from us. And you're right. It's nothing short of inexplicable how we have. That's why in my post, that long-winded, I want everyone to understand something. Like, I would have never. I didn't get into this company because of John 𝗪𝗧𝗛, okay? If I would have thought he was a fraud, I probably would have avoided it. But it wasn't because of 𝗪𝗧𝗛 that I got it. I thought it was a cool story that he had, but I wasn't impressed by his resume. I did look at him running ChemBio before this and being a football player in college, which his shirt choice was nothing short of atrocious as well. But anyway, the buttoned up Hawaiian, geez Louise. I didn't get into this because of 𝗪𝗧𝗛, okay? I got into this because of the next generation capability and what I believe is going to be the next standard of care diagnostic for sepsis and for Lyme disease, right? Whether it's under T2 Biosystems or some other company, that's what is yet to be determined. So I agree with you, Mark. I think that we're all going to be surprised here. How surprised is going to be, we're going to be surprised, but how surprised, that's going to be the variable, right?
Right. I have no idea. I mean, I don't even want to even look at I think my averages must be maybe around, 45 cents and I've got options too I'm lots of them. So I know.
What date do your options expire?
February, I think February, most of them February.
Okay, good.
And so if something does happen where it gets bought out, that would be great. But it would be greater if I could triple down now. And, so let's say my, I don't know what you said fair. I mean, we could be anywhere from 250 to 750. You think in that range. So it wouldn't, considering all of this, it wouldn't be a bad payday, but, a better payday would be if I can double down. If I know this is truly kind of the bottom, at $7, hey, that's got to be the bottom. 6, oh, that's the bottom. Oh, it can't go less than 5. Like,
this thing's dropped in half like 5 times since the last month.
Yeah, and
I mean, we went right. Yeah. We went from $10 down to 7.5, right? Down to 5, right? Down to 3.70, right? I mean, you've dropped 50%, 4 times.
Yeah, from bad, like
from bad. Yeah, from bad.
How yeah, it's like it's vapor. I mean, it's like it's just
our human minds don't compute it because, right, you think to yourself, if you've dropped 50%, then you can only drop another 50%, and then you're done. But that's not how math works. But our minds don't compute that. It's not intuitive, at least to me. I think to some people it is, and that's like, then you should be in a field of math.
Right. I mean, you literally. I mean, the company's worth. I made a joke like, me and my buddies can throw a bunch of money together and buy this company out. I mean,
I've said this so many times. Like, I've texted one of my wealthy uncles, and I've been like, "Hey, can you buy out T2 for? I mean, like, you could own this thing. Obviously, your bid's going to get rejected, but just throw it out there."
Yeah, and so some people say, well, wait for it to go. Wait for it to go into bankruptcy. I mean, it will never bankruptcy.
Hey,
I mean, that's
T-Camp. Are you a fan of TTOO?
All right, you got. I don't know. I'm sensing some bullshit here, but you got a minute.
What do you mean? I got a minute of what?
I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of the company. I have talked about it for 60 plus hours.
I just joined. That's why I was curious because I haven't heard any conversation about it. I haven't been following properly.
Go ahead. Yeah, I like the company.
Oh, Okay, that's all. I was just curious.
Got it. Well, that's all you got to say. Then thank you very much. Oh boy. Like, what the fuck are people need to get a life, dude? Get a job, get a life. I don't know. Go trade, go do something, go gamble, do anything but troll me. Ugh. It's fucking exhausting, man. Sitting up here. It's like, I'm up here, I'm like, you got a minute. And then it's like, oh, why do I have a minute? I just came in here. I don't know. Annoyed. Now it throws me off track. Like, what was I talking about? Annoyed.
Wait, didn't you lose all your money though?
Oh, another one.
You lost all your money on TTO. So why are you John C and happy? What do you mean go gamble? You gambled all your money away. You don't have any left.
You sound like, I don't know, like worked up about my money being unrealized, gone.
Yeah, that's pretty sad, and you still like the company.
Yeah, I'm just a sad
Yeah,
guy.
as a parent.
Okay.
Let me take my phone back. Sorry about the whatever that was.
All right. We have high schoolers here,
Actually,
so we're going to go
I'm a
ahead
college
and remove you. Okay. It's so funny, man. Like, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't even comment
I
on.
think that was my grandson.
No.
Hello? Are you there?
Not your actual grandson.
No. I didn't even know I was on the air, but
Oh my God.
no, serious. I like, hey, that sounds like my grandkid, and he's 12 years old. It's like, what the heck? You're just gonna, you know what? These guys, you know what? I'll be happy that I make a lot of money when and if we're bought out. I'll be more happy when these pricks and assholes.
No,
that
that's
have,
honestly, dude. Honestly,
will
it's
be
like fuck the money at this point. I just want to,
really.
I just want to drop my phone and give a double middle finger to everybody, all of you, not all of you here, but like all of the naysayers who've just shit on me personally and everyone else, disrespected their time, come in here, trolled, whatever.
Yeah, you're the so-called doctor, right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, okay. And I'm, the so-called guy that owns 4 restaurants. I mean, like, I know who you are. I mean,
Right.
you're out there. People can look you up. They can figure it out. But you know what? I have no problems with shorts. None at all. Play fair. Not naked shorting. Okay. Not manipulation.
Totally.
Not that bullshit, and not the fucking name calling. I don't go.
It's like, that's why, I mean, good guys, that's why it's like the good guys don't make it anywhere in this world, because like we play by the rules, right? Like we're in here, we're discussing, we're not pumping. If I was pumping, guys, I would be like fucking, I'd be doing all sorts of shit. I'd just be in here saying vague shit like FTD, FTD, FTD. I would just be like repeating shit. I would be pumping the stock, like in terms of share price. It's going to go up. It's going to go up. It's going to go up. And then I would be charging you guys a subscription on top of it. Like, it's just, there's a way to do that. And it's just not interesting to me. And then you get the shorts, and I don't know. It's like, what I want to know is what that person actually is. That's what I'm more curious about. I'm such a curious being. Like, I want to know if they're like, are they short the stock and they're coming in here with the intention of like, scaring people? Are they purely like teenagers that are bored and they think it's like funny to come in here and do that? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have thought that was funny at that age.
Yeah, these are guys. You know what? They think that they're controlling things. These guys that have 17 shares short. No, And you and me, we don't control it. We can't control anything. So they think that them and their group, they're making this all happen. No, it's beyond that. It's the guy sitting up in the glass tower. I mean, that's the guy doing it. But these guys are just going along for the ride, just like we are.
I
You know?
honestly though,
I mean-
I think like, because in order to short this stock, like you have to like, there's not a lot of retailers that actually short stock because it's kind of a complicated process, and it takes more capital. Like if you have 50% or 100% fees, then you got to essentially provide double the capital just to trade to the downside. And so I don't even think these retailers who like shit on this are actually short. I really don't. I think that they like just get off on throwing stones at people. Like I think it's Schadenfreude or whatever the fuck that's called. Like I think it's just getting off at other people's demise. Because the world is so hurt right now that it's the only cathartic thing to do is to just fucking shit on other people. I even find myself doing it to like the real estate people. I think they deserve it because I think they're a bunch of like, I think that they're non-transparent. And I think that actually a lot of what they do on this app is more counterproductive than productive. Putting up like this false, persona and having people follow it and think and then you have someone committing suicide. I thought that the guy who committed suicide in that space, I literally thought he made it. I'm like, that's the guy. I literally, at one point, Artem Templar, I thought to myself, when I looked at him, I'm like, damn, that guy's successful. Fucking killed himself. You know what I'm saying? So it's damaging to like come up on this app and be like come across as the shit, and your shit doesn't stink, and I'm just rich and I'm a successful business owner and everything's going well. But so I find myself attacking, my point being like, I find myself attacking sometimes these people. Like today I got blocked by that Moses guy because I was like throwing stones at him. Now, the difference is I'm not just throwing stones because I'm a psychopath and I enjoy, like, fucking poking people. Like, I'm throwing stones because I'm thinking people are being non-transparent fucks and they need to be called out. And I'm just kind of loud like that. But it's an entirely different thing to just be like, enter my space or our space when we're all having productive conversation and be like, but didn't you lose all your money? Like, what the fuck is that? What kind of comment is that? What is that?
No, just it's childish, and there's just so much of that, and it's so divisive today, especially in this political climate. Like,
well, that's what it is. It's basically, it's just vitriol. It's just human anger and hatred just coming out in this form because that person is just hurt. I bet you that person is probably down on their own stock that they got fucked up on. And they just, in order to deal with it, they're like, look at this loud motherfucker who's down and he thinks he's not an idiot. At least I know I'm an idiot. He's saying he's not an idiot. I'm going to go attack him. You know what I'm saying? Type thing.
Yeah. It's just, things are just very divisive, and we throw shit out and anger and whatever. I got this. I live in, and I'm not going to say my political persuasion. I'm more of an independent, but I got this kid that works for me, 16-year-old kid. He goes, Biden's not even running this country because I heard that his wife is really running the country. I said, where do you hear that? He said, well, people told me that. And it's like, you know what? Nobody even educates themselves anymore.
It's independent.
We wing it. We throw shit. We just throw shit out there, and and I don't even like to have conversations with my family about politics and religion. It's the worst it's ever been.
No, it is. It's the most divisive it's ever been. I mean, COVID basically catalyzed it, in my opinion, right? What else going to happen when you isolate people for months on end, and then and you know what I'm saying? And then you have to make decisions on vaccinate or not vaccinate, like fucking divisiveness during a election year. Like this is the most volatile period of time we've seen in 50 plus years.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's like I would agree with you. I think that's kind of why I'm so contrarian a lot of the times, is because I think independent thinkers naturally right now always are contrarian, but right now are like hyper contrarian because you just have people out there like that 16-year-old that works for you, just fucking like sponges, dude. And they're just out here like they literally just they're a sponge. They just
Yeah.
take in whatever they're fucking, fed to them, whether it's that TikTok clip of the day or the little clip on CNBC or Fox or whatever media outlet they choose. And they regurgitate it and they spit it back out. And there's like no processing that goes up on in the brain during
Yeah.
that.
Yep. I mean, I actually had bought 3 restaurants during COVID. It got, thought what I thought was a good deal. And
Sure.
people say, what happened? How did you come out to have 4 restaurants? I got off my medication, I mean, literally, that's probably the only thing I can explain. Like, why would I do that? But, I've been in business for, 40 years. I've always had my own businesses, and I've never seen it. It's like, how do you explain it? And you're in the medical field. It's COVID. COVID was bad, but the after effects of COVID, society and employment and in business wise, is worse than COVID. COVID was a start. This was a lingering disease underneath, especially the political climate, and COVID was just the fire, the match. And after COVID, the free money and all that, the entitlement, it made it worse. It just blew this up.
It did. No, it absolutely did. It was the gasoline on the fire, so to speak. And I tell this to my colleagues in medicine. I thought medicine was broken before COVID because I had worked professionally for at least 2 to 3 years before COVID and before the pandemic in 2020. And I said, I thought it was broken before, but holy shit, it's just straight up broken now. And it's not just healthcare. It feels like so many aspects of our lives, like small business, like restaurants. I mean, just the normalcy in our life has just been gone for essentially the last 3 years. What we're used to. We're living in a post-COVID world. Like truly, this is a new paradigm. And
Yep.
it's and so I think you talked about being I'm going back to like you feeling greedy and saying over leveraged. You're probably right. But the thing is, because I might be even over leveraged, so to speak, in terms of just risk allocation here. Nothing that will bankruptcy or put me into bankruptcy, nothing that I'll get margin called on or anything like that structurally, but over leveraged, so to speak, from a risk perspective, and a diversification perspective. I agree that entrepreneurs naturally take that pathway. I think that because I'm that way. It's funny, like I didn't meet one side of my family until kind of like my adult life. And it was great because I became very close with my cousins and my uncle and aunt on this side of the family that is extremely, extremely successful. And multiple millionaires, decamillionaires, and I got kind of an insight to that life. And over the years, since I've, reconnected with them in my adult life, I've had the ability to, what's even more important than seeing how they live, which is very important too, But the conversations that they have are just totally different than the conversations that I had ever been exposed to. And basically, it highlighted that there are two ways of operating in this capitalist world that we have. You are either a risk taker, or you are essentially like just a non-risk taker, and you do it the way that you're told, right? Like you get a job, you save, you diversify, you might put a little bit of money into the flavor of the week stock and make like 50 or $100, and then you can treat your wife or whomever your partner to a nice dinner here and there. You might be able to pay for a vacation or some other, you know, material object, or probably some other liability. This at least, and I'm going to step on fucking toes here, because to each their own. There's no right or wrong way of living.
Go with your opinion. Everybody has it. No one should criticize you for it. So.
Right. But I'm going to say here that to me is uninspiring, and it's kind of, when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, it is the poor dad mindset of living. It's like it's the rat race. It's the fucking, like, I call it NPC, like, because I like video games, right? Like non-person character. Like, you're basically just like this bot. You're like a capitalist unit that's out there, like, working for the people who own the businesses, and basically you're just euthanized by like Netflix and all these other like pleasures that we have in our day-to-day lives. But for what? To work 60 years and maybe retire at the end? Good luck, for us at least, doing that. So I say this because, you know, like, I subscribe to the other mindset. I subscribe to monopoly. If we're in capitalism, if we're in this capitalist society, then let's fucking play the game. Right?
Yeah, I definitely agree with it. I mean, you know, I owned a business for 30 years that I had good management, good manager. I can, you know, I tell him, call in and say, hey, Scott, I'm going to Jamaica. He said, when you going? I'm at the airport now, you know, but
Right.
you know, now I own restaurants, and, you know, it's like, the worst thing you can wish on your worst friend. So that's why I want to get out of it. But, you know, I grew up in a single mom household with 4 kids, and I never knew I lived in the core. You know, I lived in the projects. I didn't know it back then.
Right.
And so I think of that. I think of that like, you know what? If I can just get a little bit of money and take my wife to Mexico, where she's from,
Yep.
go, you know, live on the beach in some modest house, I'd be happy. I mean, I basically lost all that, you know, down 700,000.
Yeah.
You know, and still have a nice house and don't have any debt with my. Yeah. So
exactly.
I, you know what? I'm okay with that.
Exactly. You know? You're okay with that. And that's because everyone has a different background and everyone grew up different. And so if you grew up in the projects, which obviously you didn't know it back then, but as an adult, you're like, oh shit, I had it pretty rough a little bit as a kid. Then obviously your yearning for a certain standard of living is going to be different than that of like someone who grew up upper middle class, right? Because
it depends. Yeah.
Baseline, you know, and to you or to someone else who grew up in the projects, that is not the baseline. That is 2-3 times their lifestyle. So yeah, no, I agree. Everybody's different. It all is based on your probably upbringing.
Yeah, I had a good mom with, you know, good values, and, you know, didn't see color in religion, and you know, two out of the 4 we we grew up to own our own businesses. My sister very successful in her business, and and a brother who's a retired captain of police, and a computer expert. So two out of four. So kind of risk takers, but it's like, hey, I'm happy. What really makes me think, like my wife's brother, he ended up recently in the hospital with, had a heart attack and lung problems, and I think it's probably related to COVID, and then I think back, I never had COVID, but I did. I had COVID for like 4 hours. It was really the weirdest thing, but to this day, I have, I remember I was working in the restaurant and I got extremely hot, and I thought I'm just working too hard. So I went outside, get some fresh air, and little later I was done. And I didn't know I had COVID until I donate blood regularly, and it came back, hey, your blood's going to California to help COVID victims or whatever. So I didn't even know I had it.
You probably had COVID for longer than that, but just were only symptomatic for like 4
Oh
hours.
yeah. Oh yeah. It was the craziest thing. But and then to this day, I'm not trying to get free medical advice, but to this day is I got this like fluid in my lungs. I could feel it, kind of thing. And then after my wife's brother had this problem, I'm thinking about, what? Life is too short,
Well, it's
let's make things happen. And hey, if you achieve a little bit of success and a little bit of money, you know what? This is just, what do they say, a fly in the ointment kind of thing, and maybe something good will happen.
I agree. I subscribe to that. I saw a sign the other day. It was on social media. It was like, none of this matters anyway, so just do your best, type thing. And it really did calm me down a little bit, because I was kind of caught up in the minutiae, the details of the stress of life, and it just kind of helped me realign myself and realize, like, none of this fucking matters. Like, it's just money. My relationships are what matters, and even in the scheme of things, maybe not even that. Like, really, this might all not matter at all. And that's a philosophical way of thinking. But it's funny that you are a risk taker in the context of being risen by a single mother, because I also was risen by a single mother for a lot of my youth, and then had a stepfather, and then he is no longer present in my life. But I wonder, and I read this book, balls, The Millionaire Next Door. Awesome book. Recommend it to everybody.
I'll read it. Used to do a lot of reading, but before I had restaurants, but maybe I need something. But I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but I didn't even know how to use Twitter. But then I'm searching, what the hell's going wrong with this freaking stock, and I see this TCAM guy mentioned somewhere, and I start, like, Twitter, how does this work? And I signed up for it, and I didn't take your advice. I mean,
right.
I'm here after the disaster. I'm in this, the sinking ship with you. So,
right.
But in a sense, you're very rational. You're saying what everyone else says. This fucking doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like, hang tight. Like, what are you going to sell now? What?
Yeah.
99.5% loss. Like, why? It's like, what? As unexplainable as what happened, it's going to be just the opposite. I know it's going to happen. Like, this technology, nobody else has it. Like, I don't get it. I mean, the worst thing they have with this technology is owned or run by this asshole. It needs to be bought up. And I've said the original reason I bought this stock was for that reason. This is a perfect product and technology for somebody to buy them out. And then it went up to 70 cents. And I said the same thing. This is the only reason I was in it, because it was a buyout candidate. It should be owned by a big company. I saw the history. You know, I saw 3 years of just being gouged by these manipulators and naked shorts. I said, it needs to be bought up by a big company where it's 3 to 5% of its revenue. It means,
Yeah, right.
and these guys, and these guys cannot do this anymore. I don't know.
I've come to kind of like a nadir. Is that the right term? A nadir, a low point that truly, like, TMI in the shower yesterday, just contemplating. It's like my contemplation time. I just sit there and think. But I was like, I'm sitting there just racking my brain on trying to rationalize share price, trying to rationalize what exactly has happened over the last 3 years that I've owned this thing, and the actions of management, and how John 𝗪𝗧𝗛 is still in charge. And I just thought to myself, do I need to start a petition to get him fired? Like, is that the next step? Because I'm so, this thing, it's now becoming, fuck money and shareholder return. This needs to go to market. And the only thing keeping it from going to market is someone else leading a negotiation, a buyout or something. Like he said in May, it was filed that they were pursuing merger, reverse merger, acquisition strategies here. So what are the fucking updates? Unless truly we're just sitting here and this is all just, divine comedy of all of us sitting here with unrealized pain, not knowing that we're about to get paid the fuck out and it'll be all okay, and we just need to sit here and wait, then what the fuck else is happening? Like, we need to do something, And it makes me think. It makes me think that I think where we are in a reality check, like if someone would be like A, B, C, D, where do you think we are? I would say I think that we're in the period of time where you just closed your phone and then 2 months later the company was bought out. And honestly, I think that's what's going to happen here. Like, we're sitting of late November. I think late January, it is within the realm of probabilities that we're bought out.
Oh, that's what's crazy is this quarter we haven't heard anything yet, and there's 1 month left.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. There's no other. People are like, well, what about this organic pathway? Yeah, guys, that's still a possibility, but all signs point to that's not happening here. Because why? Because where the fuck is management? I've never the earnings is done. The blackout period's over. Where's management? Like we're like crying babies out here asking for our parents. Like, why else would they be silent? There's no other reason, guys, to be silent at all-time lows. I don't know, man.
Oh, and that was weird. Like, his presentation on Thursday or whatever day it was. So he talked about 9 units left on the Poland contract. Those were 75,000 each, so that would be 675 grand just in that one hospital system.
Exactly.
And then
quarterly revenue or a third.
Yeah, and then he talked about that they're greatly penetrating South America and Southeast Asia. We haven't heard anything about that. Like, no sales there, but they're greatly penetrating it somehow. Which doesn't make any sense.
Bio threat,
Yeah. And then when he called out the competitors for the first time, that's the first time I've ever seen him do that. And he actually named like BioFire and all the other competitors and called them out, which I've never seen him done before. So I thought that was interesting as well.
No, I agree. It's very interesting behavior. I think other than them being in active negotiations and they just can't come out and talk too much because at risk of, I don't know if you guys were listening to back when TJ was talking, he's like, these things are very, very, very fragile and deals can fall apart on the drop of a dime if, something says something untimely or.
Well, that's what I was worried about with the Glassdoor thing that they took down. Could you imagine if that was the buyout and it got ruined because of that?
Jesus fucking Christ.
I don't know. I think that was a plant, really.
Well, I think so too, but that was the only one they took down. The other ones they have about a buyout are still up there. So
right. No,
Yeah.
I agree, dude. And it's like, I've tried to make a Glassdoor account. Like, it's not super easy. I mean, if you're really dedicated and want to fool people, yeah, you can definitely do it. But I don't know. It seemed more like a disgruntled employee just being emotional and making a bad decision. That's just my own personal assessment of the situation. But what do we have that's kind of in the next quarter, right? Before January, or certainly before February. The only thing that we can I think there's 2 things that we can put our hat on, maybe 3. Acinetobacter baumannii should be FDA cleared because we submitted that a month ago.
October 12th, I think.
Yeah, so it should be, this is 1 month, December's 2, January should be 3. It's a 90-day process. Typically, it took T2 Biothreat 100 days, and as Joe pointed out, they didn't even have breakthrough designation. So I don't know, that is still confusing because the FDA 510K pathway is still accelerated. Nonetheless, Acinetobacter baumannii we should hear results on that within the next 90 days.
But you know what, guys,
Yeah.
these great products and results, you started the conversation about a few weeks back about, hey, look at the potential for Lyme and all that stuff. Look at the potential for sepsis. Look at the potential for biothreat. The products and the technology, it doesn't seem to matter. What matters is
from like a sales, the management is not executing. I agree, despite the fundamentals progressing. But I think what I'm trying to highlight here is, what could be if you were negotiating to buy this company, there might be just like a clause, or they might be waiting to see, okay, yeah, sure, we will cross the T's and dot the I's when Acinetobacter baumannii is cleared, when Candida auris is cleared, and when T2 resistance is cleared. I don't know. That could be the determining factor, because as I said, I think that the T2 resistance is and has been, the pivotal aspect of the adoption of this within, hospitals that already have T2DX.
And basically, when that's done, the pipeline's basically finished. Like, there's not really much left.
No, there's not. Exactly. Like, T2 resistance is the second step of the next generation. The third step is just literally getting all of the pathogens. And once we have Candida auris and Acinetobacter, we'll have more than 75% of the sepsis-causing pathogens with resistance capabilities, with biothreat capabilities. I really don't know what else there is other than the remaining 25%, right?
Yeah, it's just that's why. I mean, it's like I've made a comment like, who the hell is selling this? I mean, it's like, you know what? Hire some commissioned used car salesmen or couch salesmen.
I could sell this thing in a fucking second. I truly like.
I mean, the technology. I mean, I show my wife all this technology, and she says, "Shit, we knew somebody that died from sepsis." I was in the hospital with appendicitis 3 years ago, and they thought I had. They didn't do anything. They let it explode after 2 days. They thought I had verticulitis or something. It exploded. I was in the hospital 16 days during COVID. They thought I didn't even know what they were doing, but they were kept saying that, hey, we got to get you on something right away, and this and this, and it could be life threatening. I'm thinking, and they loaded me up with all these bags of shit.
Probably put you
And
on vancomycin.
yeah, and as it turned out later, they said, no, you don't have it. I said, oh, okay, but I didn't even know how serious it even was. Like holy shit.
Yeah,
They thought I could have had sepsis, and I didn't know that until like right now, until this whole thing, investing, in this company. And it's like,
no.
how? I mean, I'm a salesman. I mean, that's what I did in my other career, my other company I sold. I was a salesman. How can you not sell this technology? And I don't know shit about
the
anything.
competence is just baffling. But I would say that if we're going to be bought out, it's an interesting timeline, right? Because you can't come in and buy the company out after they come out with next gen, right? Because at that point they're going to start gaining traction, adoption, and revenue, and that's going to materially change the valuation metrics of the company, right? So if you're going to buy something out, don't you have to do it right before they come to market with their final product? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Does that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, nothing about any of this makes any sense. So, I don't think you talk about like a dark period or a blackout, or I don't know what the hell any of that means. I mean, it's like,
Well,
he's got to be careful what he says. Like he said all this. I see your post of your LinkedIn conversation right before the split. Like he almost like, okay, he didn't actually come out and lie to you, but he was not very truthful or upfront about that.
Say thanks for your investment, and then less than 12 hours or less than what was it? It was like 14 hours later. Do a surprise reverse split is, I think, like pathological. Just I don't know, narcissism in my opinion. But Scott, do you think that like the buyout, in terms of a timeline, they would have to do it before we actually get to market with next gen?
I don't know. I mean, we already might have set up a deal with Qiagen, and that's why Terry loves him. Maybe he wasn't never even really supposed to sell anything. He was just supposed to do all the research and development, and like they know the end date already for the buyout, and it's just like maybe that's what's going on. I don't know.
That would be an incredible. That would be the funniest of this, dude. That would be like the hardest scenario for Spurs. Well, I guess not really, because he's going to get paid regardless, and he doesn't really care about shareholder return. But I think that would be an interesting and plausible scenario. So essentially, you're saying like, much like their contract with BARDA, they have this pre-arranged, maybe not in ink, but verbal contract or whatever it is, however it's structured with Qiagen and Thierry Bernard, basically that, if you get to this point of the pipeline advancement, then we're going to essentially buy you. And I don't know if they would have predetermined a price tag on that, or if that's like a fluid discussion. I imagine it's fluid, because if you have other parties that are interested, then that changes things, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's a good segue into BARDA. I've seen so much shit being posted about BARDA that is just straight up misinformation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd like to know, because I'm very confused about it, because I thought at his conference call where we all took a shitter, and what he said, I remember him saying about BARDA, he says, "Oh yeah, there's no more BARDA money," and then he just went on like
yeah,
that's all he said.
What do you mean? Hey, can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, he said, "Oh, and yeah, just so you know, there's no more BARDA money." Okay, all right, let's go on. Like what?
Yeah,
like in the fourth quarter though, specified.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is this, is this a kind of like a play by Spursel? If so, he needs to stop being so cute, because it's not working. But I I think the way to interpret it is the safest way is to be as face value as possible with it. So basically, take what he's saying. There is no more BARDA money anticipated this year. Okay. Full stop, period. Okay, we can move on. Option 3 has expired. Okay, got it. We can move on. He did say that. That doesn't mean, I don't know the exact verbiage, but he basically alluded to the fact that we can't, it doesn't mean that we can't have additional contracts with BARDA in the future. What is confusing, though, is that the way that it comes off is that our relationship with BARDA has reached the termination, the natural termination. And then if we want to pursue additional relationship thereafter, we're free to do so, but that's not currently planned. That's the way it came off, and that's why you're seeing everybody saying like BARDA left you guys are fucked, something's wrong.
Right. Like somebody says, yeah, just because a BARDA, this is like the guy says, the Hobbit guy, I don't know, that idiot, whatever.
Yeah,
he says,
exactly. He said that they stopped building the house with us, and they said, good luck.
Yeah, right. They built 2 out of 4 walls and said, okay, yeah, we're not interested.
Exactly.
I like, really?
I guess that's the first level thinking when you read that. Yeah, of course. That's what you think. If you're like 10 years old and you're hearing that, you're like, oh, BARDA's done with us. But if like you have a little bit more capacity to, and be a little bit more independent of a thinker and analyze yourself, kind of read in between the lines, then I think it's much better to interpret that, or not better or worse, but I think the way that I've interpreted it is that the current money, like option 3 is done, and then the next option is yet to be structured or penciled in. Like, there isn't an option 4 that is set up yet, but it's possible. But it's confusing because we know we have like, what was it, 40, 45, 46 million remaining out of the allocation. Like, where's that money? And it's not like we didn't. It'd be one thing if we failed to get the milestones. It'd be one thing if we came out in December and it was like T2 resistance didn't meet the milestones and it's a failure. And then that triggered the BARDA collapse. But we don't have that yet. So I don't know. Maybe that's the bearish thesis, is that share price is pricing in like the failure of T2 resistance. I don't know. That's like one way to interpret it, I guess.
I mean, did all the BARDA money hit their account? Did it go into the bank?
Well,
Because
that's where we have kind of been
We don't
talking about, me and T-Camp and the DMs.
Yeah.
Because the obligated money is 30.1 million or something like that, but it says the outlaid amount is 15. So I don't know if the website's just not updated or if they haven't paid us the rest of the 15 that they owe us. So
like BARDA, and then say, and there's no more BARDA money. But it can elaborate this whole thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like, yeah, he hasn't done a very good job of selling product or whatever, but something is intentional here. I mean, if a board of directors are a board of directors for a company that loses 99.99 whatever, I mean, they would fucking can him. Like, why aren't they canning this guy? There's got to be a ulterior motive here. There's something that we just don't understand.
It's got to be binary. There's either intentionality to kill this company, or they're not firing him because there's a buyout or a merger acquisition happening. I think that's like the only two All right, who's this Joshy guy? He's like, hi, Joshy. Who's this?
Hello? Hello?
Hey, I saw you requested to speak.
Yeah, I have one question.
What's up?
How does it feel losing 86,000 in a stock?
What'd you say?
How does it feel losing 86,000 in one stock?
It feels good.
Yeah.
I like it. It feels good.
Feels good? Nice, nice.
Gotcha. How does it feel spending your time on a Wednesday coming in trolling me?
Feels good. It feels good.
All right. Well, I'm glad we're both feeling good. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
At least he's polite.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm exercising patience. So, yeah, I think there's some intentionality between either to suppress the stock and kill the company, or he has to be getting some sort of deal penciled in. Because you're right. How the fuck does this guy stay in charge? It's either complicity of killing the company, or he's pulled out a rabbit and out of the hat, and he's about to deliver. So I what I just don't get, and what everybody just has questions about, is okay. Well, hold on a second. I just thought to myself, does the lack of BARDA money maybe suggest a buyout too? Right? I don't know. I just had this fleeting thought in my head that if the BARDA is done out of nowhere, everybody says that, oh, it's doom and gloom. There must be something wrong. I'm thinking, wait a second. What if it's the opposite? What if there's no need for any more BARDA money to go to the company because the company's bought or being bought? I don't know.
Yeah, being that this is BARDA, government, whatever, and technology that they, in a sense, kind of ordered. I mean, are there any government approvals that will be needed? I mean, for a company to buy them out? I mean, any or give at least.
Well, I don't think they can order it, because then you would be essentially privatizing, or not privatizing. You would be doing what China does, that getting the federal government intertangled with private companies, and I forget the word of that type of economy, but it's escaping me. But essentially, that's not how we operate. Well, it is how we operate when our banks fail, but it's not how we operate, so to speak, on another day-to-day basis. So we're basically China. We just don't call ourselves China. I don't know, because when Lehman Brothers and everybody else fucking fails, we just come in and say, here's the taxpayer money. Okay, now we own a chunk of your stock and pay us back, and then we'll be out of the company and not have equity in it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, getting off base, but no, I don't think the government has the right to, well, first of all, they can do whatever the fuck they want, federal government, but I don't think it's within their normal practice to order a transaction or a merger acquisition outside of a global financial crisis where banks need to be merged together, because they did facilitate those merger and acquisitions during the GFC of 2008. And Hank Paulson and Ben Bernanke led those efforts. Very fascinating to go back and look at that. But I think what is more in line with their probability of how they'll take action if they want something like that to occur, right, is we know the CDC has come out with mandates for hospitals essentially meeting these new sepsis criteria. And if the only way that hospitals can really meet that criteria is by having a superior technology that can help lead those efforts, then how else are you going to, like, because then it's kind of nice, because then the hospitals, like, they have an incentive to have the best technology too. So now basically a buyer is essentially just being a broker. They're basically just meeting the hospital demand, right, with the supply that is T2. I don't know. That's how I view it. Because if I'm like if I'm just sitting on the board of one of these, multiple billion-dollar companies, and I'm just sitting back at home, and I'm seeing the news, the CDC is having sepsis mandates, blah blah blah, and I know about this company that is up and coming that has a superior technology. In my mind, I'm just sitting there like putting a puzzle in a missing piece. I'm like, oh, well, I bet you I can increase shareholder return of my company if I take that company and just leverage the demand of the hospitals right now. I don't know. It all seems to make so much sense to you and I, but here we are down here, negative 99.999%, being told we're fucking crazy. Every 10 minutes we got trolls coming in here saying, how does it feel to be down $86,000 on your investment? Like, these are multiple accounts. This is the fucking effort that's being put. Like, it sounds like the same guy too, by the way. Like, fucking there's another Joshy account that I've blocked, and I'm sure it's that same fucking guy, who, by the way, I believe is in high school or
Yeah.
in college or some shit.
Yeah, he's probably on recess or detention or something.
Yeah, dude's like gambling with his fucking like federal government loan, and he's pissed off that he's lost it all, and now he's got to pay it back and his tuition. Shit.
I did want to comment on the fact that the BARDA money kind of stopped out of nowhere, because that was kind of my assumption as well, that because of a buyout or because of a merger and acquisition transaction, that's what kind of was the reasoning behind the BARDA money just coming out of nowhere and just being depleted. So I don't know. It's interesting though.
I agree, LaFleur, man. I'm glad that I'm not the only one who thinks that, because everyone was kind of quiet there for a second, so I thought maybe I'm going off the deep end here. But yeah, okay, that because otherwise it's like, if BARDA, it doesn't make sense, right? Just like, let's really go through this. All right, BARDA obligated $77 million based on milestones to T2 over a certain period of time. They've met all the milestones. So far, they've distributed anywhere in the realm of 30 million. So there's half or more of the contract yet to be dispersed. They've met all milestones. Everything is being check. No problems whatsoever. And then out of nowhere, they have just no news. We've completed option 3. We're free to pursue future contracts, but no news, nothing. Not a single thing about the unallocated money. Why? That makes no sense. In my opinion, it's binary as well. Either the company's fraudulent and T2 resistance doesn't work, or we're getting bought out and the company doesn't need government funds.
And then BARDA's going to tweet about a company that's fraudulent, apparently, a month after they broke the contract.
Yeah, that's a great point, Scott. How does that look on BARDA's optics if a month later, news of a fraudulent company came out and then you funded it with taxpayer money to the tune of 30 million?
Well, and a month after that they broke the contract, apparently. So
right, exactly. So you have a binary kind of logical, outcome of why would this BARDA money be gone, and you either have a fraudulent company or in resistance doesn't work, which we just kind of negated, or it's because the company no longer needs it because of some sort of M&A. What is up, Dub?
Hi, how you doing? I just had one question for you.
Yeah,
Yep. Basically, with you're going on about the BARDAs being stopped because of maybe a potential buyout.
sure.
Well, what I was thinking is, wouldn't a buyout cause the funds to be able to hit, to keep going, just because you'd be able to capitalize on that?
You mean like would the company who's buying, the company want those unallocated, funds going to them?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, certainly you would think that you wonder, but there's still that option, right? Like if the company came in and bought T2 here, 𝗪𝗧𝗛𝗪's verbiage of, they can still pursue additional contracts in the future, I guess would still apply.
Okay, so
But
essentially
then
like a pause.
what happened? What'd you
Sorry,
say?
essentially like a pause.
Yeah, it could be viewed that way. But what's interesting though is you would think that 40 million that's unallocated so far, or whatever it is, you would think that would just naturally just go to the acquiring company, right?
Sorry, I do know that. I think Mr. Mark's going off.
Oh, that's okay. I'll just mute them for a second. I was saying that I would think that 40 million that is unallocated would just naturally go to the acquiring company. So it's just odd that it's just fallen off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I understand that now. Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah, no problems. But I agree. That is a question that remains unanswered, and I guess I don't know if it hints for or against a buyout, but maybe just adds a little bit more haziness surrounding that. Of we're thinking that there's a possibility that them just stopping this BARDA funding is because of a buyout, but then the question remains of what happens to the unallocated funds. A possible answer to that question could be it's just not needed. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense because they haven't completed next gen yet with, they still need like 25% of pathogens. So I imagine, the acquiring company would have to pick up the slack on that R&D at this stage, which takes money, I would imagine. So I don't know. It's like,
yeah, I think my money
they
would
probably
be.
have to make a new contract.
Oh, definitely.
For
Yeah.
the
My money's going to be on those funds going to the new company, maybe when it's actually the buyout comes to fruition.
Agreed. And probably just having, wait a second. This really makes sense now. Okay, right? Okay. This I love when I get like spontaneous little thoughts. So you have 40 million of unallocated money that's supposed to go to T2 Biosystems,
Mhm.
right? A buyout is happening.
Yeah.
Well, the 40 million can't go to T2 Biosystems anymore. So what do? You stop that contract and then you just start a new one with the new company that acquired.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a natural progression of logic. Okay,
Definitely.
good.
That's all I had to say, but thanks for answering the question.
No, thanks for the question. It spurred some like spontaneous thought. That was great. Who just came up here? Rogue. I haven't seen Rogue before. What's up, Rogue?
Hey, what's up? I've just been here for a moment. I was like kind of thinking like maybe we can entertain the idea of the possibility that the funds from BARDA could also be allocated to the new merger. And then they like those funds, since they were discontinued, they can be into like a new contract.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's kind of what we're alluding to, whether it's like, how that money is then allocated for research and development or funding the M&A. Like, I really don't know. But yeah, no, I think everybody knows that the bearish logical outcome of them, stopping this funding is that something's wrong, right? That's obvious. It's almost, it needs to not even be said. It's so obvious. But we're all independent thinkers here, and we're all second level thinkers here, at least. And I think that we have just uncovered a very logical explanation of why, the BARDA funds have just kind of went MIA.
And I'm kind of also thinking, like, if they weren't getting bought out and they also got those funds, right? I'm thinking they would push hard for commercialization, or basically, actively be more active in general.
Totally. They would be more active. I believe they would feel a little bit more dire with their shareholders, because they would need to pump their own stock to raise capital, right? Like we're all out here complaining. Like, we're not, some of us are buying down because we have the money available, but a lot of us aren't. So it's like, certainly they want some reason to come out and buy the stock. You would think the company, if they needed to raise capital organically because they're not being bought out, they would be out here, they'd be vocal, they'd be a little bit more engaged. They would be talking about, what would they be pumping? Well, they would be pumping their LDT pathway for Lyme. They would be pumping their biothreat, possible contracts. They would be pumping next gen. You know what I'm saying? But we truly just don't hear anything. Nothing. No updates on manufacturing and distribution. No updates on T2 biothreat. No updates on T2 Lyme LDT. No updates on T2 resistance, even though we're about to, finish the clinical trials. Like, you read that article and everybody is like poo-poos it, like, oh yeah, it always means you're getting bought out, but it never happens. Well, no, I think it could be happening here. Like, there's that's not, like, management just goes AWOL. They just stop caring about stock price. They truly have stopped caring about stock price. Like, this thing is just dropping like a fucking lead boot in an ocean, and we're just drowning. Like, brr. And management's just like, sorry about your luck. They're not even acknowledging us. They're not even saying sorry. They're just like totally not acknowledging us at all. So I think everybody here, I don't know, everyone that's come up and spoken has basically given their thesis of, yeah, I think this is getting bought out. Yeah, I think this is getting bought out. We just don't know what the valuation of the company is going to be if that happens. So, like, I would love to have someone come up here and tell us, like, why they don't think this is being bought out and why they think, you know what I'm saying? But everyone that comes up here is like, oh, by the way, because we were talking, I planned on talking about BARDA today, and kind of hashing through, like, what happened to the money. And I had no idea. I did not think, that actually indicated a possible buyout. I thought the opposite. I was, like, scared. It's like, what the hell happened to it, But that's a great insight that I think we just revealed. Let's see here. And weren't we talking about, like, the getting through the new year for tax purposes and all that shit? I mean, just like structurally, I think an M&A makes more sense in January than it does December. I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter too much, but let's see here. What else I haven't looked at the comment section. It's been going on for a while. Mark, how would I be able to join the conversation? I'm glad you figured it out, man. That was funny. Oh, Cornelius. When will options come back? Cornelius, I don't think they're coming back, man. I think that if this buyout's going to happen, I think that the options are just going to get liquidated. That's what I'm thinking. And the option chain basically, Mark, and you don't have to answer this, and you might not even know it, but do you know if your options are at the same strike price, but you just have like one share, not 100?
I don't really know. I honestly, I have not looked.
That's so.
And because I have so much, just I don't want to look. I don't, I know some people have said, well, I can't trade this in Germany. I don't have, my options aren't listed. I looked originally for a couple of days after the split. I couldn't figure it out. I said, screw it. So I'm only going to worry about it if the thing gets bought out. So
I wouldn't worry about it too much. I know it's easy for me to say, but I think that you're ultimately gonna get probably just liquidated. I think what happened to your options is that you probably have the same strike price, but instead of 100x leverage, you probably just have like the equivalent of one share. So
yeah, I think it was. I had the exact same, but I heard that they weren't adjusted. I'm with Schwab. I haven't really looked.
Sure.
I'm just going to take it the same way that hey, if it hits, great. If not, I'm poor, and and we'll just buy a smaller house on the beach.
If like actually like sell or do anything with them, then you don't need to look. It's just like kind of painful to look at that point. So.
Right. So tell me. So it's what can you? So that's why I try to keep in my head. Hey, I got almost a million shares. Well, I know I have less than that, but I had what I have 50-cent options back then. 50 cent or a dollar. I can't even remember. I have lots of them.
Yeah.
But what strike prices can you buy these days?
Well, that's what I was saying is if you had like the 50 cent that was pre-reverse split, there's two things that could happen, right? Because essentially if you own one contract to own 100 shares at 50 cents, that would be the equivalent of one call contract at a 50-cent strike, right?
Yeah.
That's what you have the right to own. So post-reverse split, there's two things that can happen. You can either have 100 multiplier of the underlying strike price, and then you keep the same leverage. So you could own 100 shares, but at a strike price of $50 instead of 50 cents, right?
Okay.
Or you have a strike price that remains at 50 cents. And instead of owning the right to 100 shares at 50 cents, you now own the right to one share at 50 cents.
Have you seen it both ways?
The way that I've heard it being reported from other people who are holding options is that their strike price has remained the same, but their leverage has gone from 100 down to 1. So essentially, for every option that they own, for every contract that they own, instead of the 100x multiplier to those shares, they basically just have the right to one share per contract at whatever strike price that they previously bought at.
Okay, I'll look later. I'll take a bunch of antacids, and then I'll and anxiety medicine. I was coming back from Mexico, and I tried. You could always buy, medicine you need prescriptions for without them in Mexico, but I tried to find some stuff, and and I couldn't find it anymore. So I'll have to take the last couple I have of something and peek at my stock account real quick and run to the bathroom. It won't be pleasant. So, but anyway, I'll report to you. I'll let you know how they are, and I'm kind of curious myself, but not that curious. I just know that I'm in the shitter. So. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I guess I'm having my phone here.
I think we lost T-Camp.
All right. Yeah, so I was just saying I'll take a peek and see where my options are. So I'm not really curious. I know I'm poor over this. So is he around or
I don't know what's going on with
Yeah.
this speaker.
proceed without him?
Oh, it says the host is having connection issues, so he might be in an elevator or something.
Yeah, or he's being shut down, forgot to pay his internet bill.
Yeah.
like the rest of us. So that's why I'm still at a crossroads whether or not don't want to make matters worse, but take what little money I might have available and just triple myself down because
Yeah.
And I am hoping, there's a couple ways this thing could go. If maybe the buyout price was based on a certain price times X, at a certain date, or this is what the buyout price is, and it doesn't matter where it is in the shitter right now. Maybe that's why this Dick 𝗪𝗧𝗛 has not even said anything. He's disappeared. I don't know if he's just hiding from investors. I don't think he gives a shit really.
No, I don't think I think he answers to the board and he doesn't care what happens to the stock price.
Yeah. He answered to the shareholders up until this whole